You ever have that feeling like your life just went completely off script? Today, we're digging into a really powerful story about exactly that. It's a journey of being totally unraveled and then intentionally putting yourself back together, all kicked off by a series of fractures that cracked open a whole new reality.
All right, so let's get right into it. This quote really sets the stage, doesn't it? The whole story we're exploring is framed around this one powerful idea. Our identity is way more fragile than we think. And sometimes the tiniest crack can kick off the most massive personal quest.
So, where does a journey like this even begin? Well, it's not with some huge, dramatic bang. It starts with something much smaller, a tiny, nagging glitch in the code of who you believe you are. I want you to just picture this for a second. You're 19, you're supposed to be figuring things out, and then a typo, a simple misspelling of your name on an official document, feels less like a mistake and more like a splinter lodged deep in your core. According to the source, this one thing was enough to just pause everything, to halt that growing up script everyone else seemed to be following. And this is where we get to this really core idea, the identity fracture. It's basically that one moment. It could be a huge trauma or something that seems tiny that just shatters how you see yourself. It forces you to look at all the pieces on the floor and ask, okay, who am I really? But here's the thing. That first crock, that was just the beginning. What followed was a whole series of intense, life-altering experiences. And the source doesn't frame them as random traumas, but as harsh, almost cosmic initiations.
You can actually see it mapped out here. It's this incredible timeline of escalating hits over a decade. It starts with the name Fracture at 19, then jumps to a massive ego death in 2010, and it all leads up to what's called the perfect storm in 2020. Each one of these events just stripped away another layer of illusion.
Okay, so that 2010 experience, it's described as a brutal mercy. What a phrase, right? It was like this forced audit of the soul, replaying everything with this terrifying clarity. And while it was another splintering, the source suggests it was also the first weld, a permanent recalibration that built resilience for the even bigger hits that were still to come. Fast forward to 2020, a car wreck happens, and then comes what's described as a psychedelic gauntlet. First up, mushrooms. And this was no gentle therapeutic journey. No, this was an amplification of every single buried fear, turning life into a looping horror movie, a total funhouse mirror of the psyche. Then there was LSD. And the source paints this fascinating picture. It's amazing at taking everything apart, like a master deconstructor. It shows you endless perspectives. The problem? It gives you zero instructions on how to put it all back together. It just leaves you more tangled than when you started. And finally, DMT. This is described as the rocket ship to the source code. And this is where the big realization hits. These aren't just drugs. They're keys. Keys to forbidden libraries, dropping these unfiltered truth bombs that feel almost evil because of how raw and intense they are. We're talking about stuff that challenges the very fabric of reality itself. So after all that, all the shattering, the deconstruction, you'd think that's the end, right? But no, this is where the story pivots. It's this incredible reframe, this idea that you can literally start a new life, a whole new developmental timeline, right from the moment you decide to heal. And it all centers on this one crucial number, 21. See, after finally fixing that name issue from all those years ago, a new clock starts ticking. The calendar might say 40, but the second life age is 21, representing those 19 years that were spent on pause. This visual just lays it out so perfectly. It's not about being stuck or behind in life. It's about a total reset. It's this powerful idea that you get a fresh runway for growth, where your prefrontal cortex, your entire being really, finally gets its chance to mature on this brand new timeline.
Okay, so you've got this second chance, this new life arc. Now what? How do you actually navigate it? This is where the strategy makes a huge intentional shift away from just enduring chaos and toward actively rebuilding.
I love this comparison because it says it all. You're moving away from the blast-off, that chaotic, explosive rocket fuel of psychedelics, and you're shifting to this steady climb. You're trading that rocket fuel for the quiet, deliberate fire of things like books and intention. It's a move toward integrated, sustainable growth. And with that, the goal itself completely changes. It's no longer about just bracing for the next impact.
It's about actively forging what the Source calls a name shield. It's about taking all those broken pieces, those splinters, and intentionally holding them together, making them part of something new, something stronger.
All right, so let's get practical. What are the actual tools you use for this climb? With this new life arc comes a new mission, and it's a big one: to architect an expansive life with two main goals: enlightenment and longevity.
And you know what's wild? The tools aren't some crazy futuristic biohacks. It's the fundamentals, the absolute basics. A plant-heavy diet, consistent movement that you actually enjoy, prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and building deep social connections. This is the bedrock you build that longer, deeper life on. And then there's the mental and spiritual toolkit. These books, they're presented as the new sacraments. They are the instruction manuals for taking all that raw, painful truth you've uncovered and actually turning it into liberating, usable wisdom for the future. So when you pull it all together, what does this whole journey really mean? It's a monumental shift in perspective. It's about going from being a victim of circumstance, of all the splinters and fractures in your life, to becoming the architect of your own mythology, the conscious creator of your own elastic, expansive life. And that brings us to the very end, with this one last provocative thought. It's a powerful question because it turns the lens right back on you, on all of us. After the unraveling and the reweaving, what's the next intentional step you're going to take in creating your own life's tapestry? What does your next stitch look like?